Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, a series of digital-first conversations that we do here on the Leaders of Tomorrow platform, bringing India's biggest voices and experts to talk to you, the entrepreneur, about all the issues which will have an impact to you and is of relevance to you. On tonight's episode, we're bringing you part 2 of a masterclass that I did talking about the impact, the ripple impact of the war in Russia and Ukraine. Our experts calling out the areas that they feel entrepreneurs should prepare themselves for, the opportunities which are going to open up because of what's happening globally, as well as what they feel the next few months are going to look like. Listen. On the show, we have Mohandas Pai, Chairman, Manipal Global Education, Dr. M.J. Khan, Chairman, ICFA, Dharmesh Bhatia, Director, Private Banking, Emeritus, NBD. Next question is coming in from Venkat Raman. He says he is the Chief Strategy Officer at Raman Associates. This is a question for Dr. Khan. Does this mean it's good news for indigenously grown crops, especially millets, which have not had much time in the sun? Will they now, is this the time to shine? Should we as entrepreneurs be looking at our Indian millets? What would you like to say?
Certainly, in fact, this is one area where India stands gaining big. Because on the India's initiative, the UN has declared 2023 as the year of millets. And therefore, massive global level celebrations are starting from yesterday when the FAO held the worldwide conference. So national strategies have been finalized, regional strategies have been finalized, the state and institutional level, which means the global market in the last 100 years for what has been for millets is going to be 5 times more in the next 5 years. Okay. India being almost 42% of the producer of millets, world share, it stands gaining substantially. So India brand of millets and size of India's millet production, both are set to gain substantially, coupled with the fact that International Crop Research Institute for Semi-Arid Tropics, which deals with this crop, is headquartered in Hyderabad. That's the only international agriculture institute headquartered in India, in fact, whole of South Asia region. So that is pioneering the efforts. In fact, 2 weeks back, Honorable Prime Minister was there. He spent half the day at the institute. So put together, the efforts of the Indian, exporters will yield a lot of dividends as far as millet is concerned. A lot of innovation already in place. Many young entrepreneurs are getting into it with millet meal and millet basket and many new product lines.
Okay. I have one more question before I take in our second poll question. And I just want to talk specific to a few sectors. First one is what's happening as far as all the students who've unfortunately had to, perhaps give up their courses midway and come back to India. Those who are forced to look outside of India to universities abroad because of the higher cost of education here in India. Mr. Pai, this question is to you. One is it's definitely an opportunity for Indian universities, one. Two, but also to be able to fix this vacuum. What do you think the system needs to do, the government, the education system needs to do to really be able to fix and find a solution to this?
Look, first of all, we need to understand the people who went out because they could not get a seat in India. Yes, one fact is that the private sector seats are more expensive, but you don't go to an overseas country just because of expense when you know that when you come back, you got to write a medical exam in India. So we should not be carried away by many of these people. They would have been ineligible to get a seat in a medical college in this country on merit. So let's be clear about that. Second, we do have an inadequacy of medical seats in India. We got 90,000 seats today. In 2014, there's only 54,000. And now it is 90,000. Much of the increase has come from new colleges which are just not settled down, whom I won't advise my children to go in case they were going there because they don't have good staff and all that. It'll take some time. So there is a problem and there is excess demand for medical. So I would advise the government, allow those institutions who have completed 10 years as of 2022, both private and public, to double the seats in the next 3 years That will bring in about 40,000 seats. India should aim for 150,000 medical seats a year and maybe 100,000 seats for the master's course, so that over the next 2 or 3 years, we will have a high capacity. More of our young people will get opportunities based on merit to go to a good medical college in India, which especially brownfield expansion will mean they're all good colleges, a good brand, and they will teach well, not necessarily new colleges. And third, in about 10 years, we will be a global supplier of doctors to the world. And also, Sunanda, report is that there are 7 lakh young people of Indian origin studying outside India. Maybe 2.5, 3 lakhs have gone there because they want to emigrate. They think that they can go to a overseas university, do a course and stay there, especially from the west or northwest of India. They want to go, they go to third-rate universities, unregulated universities, etc. About 200,000 maybe go because they want to go to the best universities in the world, largely to the United States, top universities. And maybe 200,000 are there who can be in India, but in particular courses, but they don't have enough seats. So we've got to take care of this middle. If many people want to go because they want to go to the top universities like Stanford, it's fine. I mean, it's okay. They should be allowed to go. They should go. We should not stop anybody going overseas. But we need to expand the capacity in our good universities. So we need to look at this very differently and invest at the top of the pyramid.
But by way, I just have a follow-up question to that. But by way of a trend for entrepreneurs who are watching, specifically in the education space, 2 or 3, maybe verticals, 2 or 3 specialities that they should be looking at, which are perhaps going to emerge in response to these events that we've been talking about?
Well, I don't know whether in response to these events. Today, for example, the IT industry in the next 2 years will hire between 1.2 million, IT and startup, 1.2 million to 1.5 million people. 12 lakhs to 15 lakh people, right? And maybe they should start courses in coding and artificial intelligence, high tech, and train people up so that so that the companies hire them and give them jobs. I don't see why you have to do an engineering course to do a course in coding and AI. I don't see why. Today, many companies in the West are going by your coding skills and hiring you as coders rather than looking at a degree. So there is scope, but they have to be a very high quality. And that is where the challenge is.
Dr. Khan, I would love for you to also respond to this question. You were talking about this institute in Hyderabad, and that's fantastic. But for the agriculture and the agritech space, and we're seeing so much investment coming into agritech companies, but by way of a trend, any specialities, any areas that you think entrepreneurs who are watching today should be aware of, that they can also look at investing because of how the Indian economy is changing?
Certainly. In fact, this is boom time in agriculture, and a lot of people are taking interest. In fact, those who are completely unrelated, they are looking at opportunities and figure out what is there in agriculture for them. About 2,500 to 3,000 new entrepreneurs have come into the agricultural stream, and some of them have doing fantastic job. In fact, 2 of them have become the unicorns. A lot more is promised by this sector. In fact, 3 areas, if I specifically tell you, that digital technologies in agriculture, supply chain and value chain, and the services in agriculture. Because so far, the concept of services in agriculture was non-existent. But today, new kind of services are emerging. If supply chain is improved and where there is a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurs to get into with technology components in it, which means like in milk, which is very perishable, but the difference between producer and supplier is only 1:2. In vegetables, it is 1:5, 1:7, 1:10.
Sure.
So that is where they need to come into to plug the gaps and distortions and make the business for themselves.
Let me quickly take our second poll question. Will tightening financial conditions and heightened uncertainty affect domestic demand? And therefore, what is going to really be the fiscal position and how that's going to change through higher borrowing costs? Yes or no? That poll is on your screen. Dharmesh, in fact, let me come to you then and talk about India's trade deficit. How are you expecting that will pan out, 1 and 2, just in terms of the strategic relationship that we have with the rest of the world, a lot of countries are calling for sanctions. Some countries have imposed sanctions on Russia. How does India then ensure that we maintain that very fine balance, continue condemning on one hand what is happening, the atrocities and the human atrocities, but on the other hand also ensuring that the trade impact perhaps is minimized to some extent?
Talking about Mr. Khan and Mr. Pawar also suggested the same, that being neutral will be the benefit for the country, and I think so it would be stagnant for coming weeks. I don't think so that India will put some sanction on it as of now. Regarding the deficit, regarding the overall scenario for the Indian market, if Russia is impacted or India is impacted on Russia, is basically more on the supply side of the wheat and palladium. But I don't think so that much on the impact will be there. Oil definitely could be impacted on the price sector, but then India don't import 100% oil from Russia. There's Saudi Arabia because the carry cost is much higher. We cannot import oil from US also because again the carry cost is 3 times more than the supply, the price of it. So I think so that a major impact will be on the food grain wheat. As you see, the wheat price already triples the price. It's almost trading at $600, $500. It's trading almost $200 to $1,400. That has impacted a really hit on the Indian market. But overall scenario, I don't think so that market will get much impact. And being neutral as an India side, it will be benefit for the long run rather than short run.
Okay. While we're waiting for the poll responses to come in, Mr. Pai, this is a question that's coming in for you slightly away from today's main theme. But if you'd like to take this on, open to all three of you, of course, but Mr. Pai, to you first. This question is coming to us from Jaya Rai. She says, since we've been talking about the spike in oil prices and it's not going to change much in the short term, my question to the panelists is electric energy, new energy, clean energy as opportunities for entrepreneurs to invest in? Yes or no? What does the panel suggest?
Yes, of course, because today with petrol becoming more expensive, electric vehicles will boom. But so remember, the consumers may have a better option because power is much cheaper than possibly petrol and diesel. But remember, it is power is generated by burning coal, and coal is pollutive, so there is a problem. But definitely, I think it's an opportunity for greater EV penetration in this country. Two is you must accelerate the use of ethanol because government has said 20% blending of ethanol, and that means greater income for the farmers and lesser import of oil. Right now, I think we are at 8 to 9%. It must go up to 20% in the next 1 year as early as possible. We have enough sugar cane. So I think definitely yes.
Okay. The responses come in for the poll. Will tightening financial conditions and heightened uncertainty affect domestic demand and the fiscal position through higher borrowing costs? 100% of you have said yes. I'm going to take a quick break on that note. Back in just a moment. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. This next question is coming to us saying, what's then going to happen as far as retail consumption demand is concerned? Household demand, that is going to see an uncertainty, lesser money in the hands of people perhaps going forward. How would you like to respond to this? Dharmesh, maybe to you first.
See, if you notice, then there could be a supply constraint or there's a demand constraint. Right now, the price shoots up. Definitely, you will see that people will start spending less. The consumer index will start going down. It start diminishing. So you don't think so that people will start spending, especially on the luxury goods. And you can say only an essential products will be starts consuming very higher on the domestic. See, as in India, it's 80-20. 20% are super rich and 80% are still poor. I'm just taking a holistic figure. So if the 80% starts consuming less, spending less money on it, then you can see the market will start consolidating and it goes down. If the price shoots up, if the petrol price goes from 100 to 200, then you can see automatically that people will stop buying cars and you can see more public transport will start be using. So the demand shift will automatically go from one end to other end. It's just that people has to adjust it
A question is coming to us from Subodh Fadnas. He says he's director at Lucid Multimedia. Export Credit Guarantee Corporation might add to challenges for MSMEs. The Export Credit Guarantee Corporation had put Russia in the restricted cover category from the earlier open cover category.
Yeah, because the war zone, and I think there are sanctions. You're not very sure that once you leave the country, you can actually go to Russia to disembark. So I think they're right. So I think we've got to be careful. See, we've got to understand there is a war, there's a conflict going on, there are sanctions. Trading with Russia right now is difficult. There are too much of risk, and the risk premium will be high. And some of the export guarantee corporations will ban it. So I think that's the risk that you have to take.
Sure. I just very briefly also want to refer to what's happening on the macroeconomy, employment and employment generation, 10.3% in the October to December 2020 period versus 13.2% in the July to September 2020 period. This was according to the periodic labor force survey. Labor force participation has improved, but it's improved only marginally. And unemployment, of course, that is showing some respite. And probably to you, Dr. Khan, a lot of the pressure is also being felt as far as the agricultural sector is concerned. How would you want to, talk to our audience who is logged in today and to our viewers about how perhaps more and more people can be encouraged to use one innovation in the agri space, and how this unemployment rate can be further perhaps mitigated, because you're only going to continue to see more pressure maybe in the next few months like we've been discussing?
I think employment prospects are largely to do with the domestic policies, because this war will not have much impact as far as the domestic employment scenario is going to be. It is the government of India's policy, fiscal policy, with the additional currency is printed, where the liquidity is more, and the level of mechanization in agriculture that will determine what is going to be the number of labors required for agricultural operations. But broadly speaking, when there's a crisis time, it has very unique, peculiar features. New orders replace the old orders, and new technologies gain the acceptance. For example, the digital payment system during 3-4 months of Corona period could get more number of customers than probably preceding 2 or 3 years of, otherwise all offered by the digital payment companies, including Paytm. So similarly here also, government may come up with some kind of liberal package to accelerate creation of more employment opportunities, and farm sector happens to be one.
Dharmesh, this question to you: what is expected to happen on the liquidity situation, especially for MSMEs?
I'm expecting that liquidity crunches will be there and the price will start spiking up. The cost of borrowing will be really high. So that could be an impact on the business side. You can see that the borrowing will be higher. So either I would suggest that increase your liquidity, put a fixed deposit like on a financial side. I would suggest that borrowing on the fixed deposit will be much easier. Clean lending facility will be difficult as of now. I'm expecting that because too many banks are getting stringent right now. Again, the previous question was that the sanctions are coming up. Most of the banks, I work in the MENA region. There's so much of sanction on the Russian side that transferring money out of that, it's impossible now.
Okay. This next question, Dr. Khan, in fact, is coming in for you. How about newer areas like nutrition, consulting and healthcare, etc.? Not strictly related to today's theme, but is that something you'd want to take on? This question is saying, how about opportunities in those? It's coming to us from Anuj.
Certainly. In fact, India is food secure both at national level and at individual levels, but not nutrition secure. In fact, 22% of the Indians are facing acute malnutrition. If that is the situation, building the future on the stunted growth of children is going to be good situation for the country. So therefore, today the challenge is not to produce more, but produce the nutritional, crops, so that is where the focus has now come. So more and more innovation, both at the researcher level and at the farmer level, are going for new crops, and there the policies have to play some role in terms of pricing, where MSP is guaranteed. So it has to be much more to the nutritional crops, nutraceutical crops, than to the rice and wheat, which unfortunately, because of the farmers' pressure, government continues to support, which do not justify the support. Third is, of course, the role of the industry, where more and more new products are not only launched but aggressively promoted, so that the nutrition security is a concept the Indian consumers understand, and as a necessity, they go for buying that. So that has not been so far.
I want to thank the three of you for really taking the time to call out the impact that these major events are having as far as the life of an entrepreneur is concerned in India. Completely out of time in this edition of the Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our contact details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.